All right, I'm just going to come right out and say it, but for this year's One Magazine Skater of the Year, I voted for Julien Cudot, and I think I have some strong reasons why. Let's talk about it. Hey everybody, what's up from Roll, Minnesota, your state of skate. Hey, I'm Butch Lehman, and today we have an extra special episode of Rolling Reactions that's a bit more all-encompassing. Now, for those of you that are living under a rock, every year One Magazine does their Blader Awards for a number of different categories and a number of different skaters that are deserving of recognition. And one of the most illustrious of these awards is the Skater of the Year. Now, every year there are a lot of deserving names, and this year is no different. But there are some reasons why I think Julien Cudot has earned the top spot, and that's really what I wanted to share with you. From being an amazing competition skater that has really set a precedent for what it means to be dominant in the competitive scene, to putting out some really amazing video parts, including a new documentary, which we're going to talk about in this video, and that I got exclusive permission to review here. I think he's been doing just about everything right, and thus he has earned that position. So without further ado, let's take a look at his competition series. Now, I don't know what comes to mind for all of you out there when you're thinking of Skater of the Year, but for me, it's a number of different factors, and one of those is how prominent has the inline skater been in the larger industry. And one of the ways to make a name for oneself is through competitive skating. And you guys don't need me to tell you how dominant Julien has been over the past year. Not only has he won a number of the Fise events and actually been crowned as the champion of that, but he took home the first place finish at Winterclash, which is arguably the biggest and most prestigious competition in all of inline skating. We also saw him place second place at Bitter Cold Showdown, and I think an argument could be made there for him taking the top spot, depending on how the judges were assessing that competition. He placed first at the Franky Morales Invite, and has just been popping off at every competition, bringing some of his best skating and really some unbelievable tricks. And in some cases, tricks that have never been seen before. So I really can't discredit all of the amazing skating that Julien's done on the competitive circuit. It's also worth noting that that type of skating can be significantly more difficult than putting out a video part. Not only do you have to be more consistent, but there's the pressure of all the added spectators and the time limits that go into skating in competitions. So that's something I certainly don't want to discredit, and I think a lot of people should take into consideration when deciding who is Blader of the Year. Now, does that mean that a Blader of the Year has to be a park skater or a competition skater? Certainly not, but that's just one of the many factors that I think play a role in how I assess this competition, at least for me. And this brings me to my second reason, but that's video parts. Now, Julien has put out a number of amazing video parts, and it was only just a year ago that he released one of the best, perhaps arguably the best park section ever released. This one was titled Heads Up, and in it, Julien goes undercover at the skate park when it was empty, just landing one amazing ender trick after another. Like, these were literally some of the best tricks I've ever seen performed in a park. A lot of stunts, a lot of really high-risk maneuvers here, a lot of tech tricks, and it was just so impressive and a good complement to that level of competition skating that I'd mentioned from Julien earlier. So that is just a second reason why I think Julien is worthy of this award, is that edit was something that I think we'll look back to 10 years, 20 years from now as possibly the pinnacle of this era of skating. Now, of course, Julien isn't as well known for his street skating, but he certainly can mix it up in the streets as well. In fact, I go back to one of my favorite sections of all time, which was Julien's profile for trigger skates. Now, this had some amazing cinematography in it with all sorts of landscape shots. There's some animals in it. Had a really fun vibe to it, and I'll never forget the gainer backflip that Julien did in front of all these spectators. They were just everywhere. And when I think of showcasing blading to the masses, that's kind of the type of skating that I think of. Now, granted, this video part was a long time ago. I'm not exactly sure how long, maybe 7 to 10 years ago, but some of the tricks in there were ridiculous. And this is coming from a guy that we traditionally don't think of as a street skater. Even though, as we'll see here in just a moment, street skating is certainly in the repertoire of Julien Cudot. In fact, one of my favorite tech tricks in this video, besides that massive backflip, was this alley-oop horn to full cab alley-oop top horn. One with the right foot, one with the left foot. It's just such a technical switch up and the type of trick that I could literally try for days on a P-rail and not be able to lock. So to see him do it on a handicap rail is incredibly impressive, and I do think Julien is often discounted and underrepresented when it comes to street skating. He has the skill for it. He has all the different varieties of skating, and that's the kind of person that I look to when I think of Skater of the Year. What I wanted to do primarily in this video, though, is talk about an opportunity that recently fell into my lap, and that was with the release of Julien's new documentary video, Foot Moon, that he released not too long ago. Now, this isn't your traditional skate video. It's not just a bunch of skate tricks set to music, but rather goes behind the scenes to give us a better look at who is Julien Cudot, who is the man behind the mystery, especially for those of us that are here in the United States that maybe don't have that level of interaction or intimacy with all the international skaters out there. And so this is one that definitely appealed to me, and the creator of this video actually reached out and offered to send me a copy of this video to review for free, but I was all in. I wanted to purchase it and review it and allow that money to better support the industry and those that are in it, like Julien. So the first thing you'll notice about this video, if you happen to purchase it, is that it's broken down into a number of different sections covering Julien's personal life. Everything from his family life, to his spirituality, to his influences, to some of the struggles he had with alcohol, and just a number of other things. And it's just a really captivating and interesting look into Julien's life. And I have to tell you guys, it's actually a very interesting snapshot in what goes on behind the levels of success that we're used to seeing. Now, one of the facts that I found really interesting here is Julien's influence in skating goes back to Brian Aragon, and street skating is something that has a very strong presence in his psyche. It's something he aspires to do and holds in high regard. And if you're thinking Brian Aragon, we have similar tastes, so that's something that I definitely appreciate as well. I was also surprised to learn that Julien doesn't currently have a skate sponsor. I think we've all seen him skating Salomon skates, and that's not that uncommon to have loyalty to a past brand, and here Salomon is all these years later, no longer releasing skates. Somebody on that caliber, on Julien's level, with the competition, outings, and performances that he has, could easily sign with a number of different companies, and to see him rolling independently is something else that I have tremendous respect for. There's a certain level of integrity there that I think is notable. We also see a little bit about Julien's goals. I also learned from watching this that he's multilingual. Like, I knew he could speak French and English, but Spanish? So that's another testament to the person behind the skating and the skates. It was just a really interesting and fascinating look into Julien's life, and I don't want to break down every single one of these sections. I'm going to tell you guys that you need to go watch it for yourself, but these types of character-driven pieces I think we need more of in the inline skating community, where we get to know about the actual skaters, their personal lives, their interests, rather than just the tricks, because it really does help humanize the sport of skating. Now, don't get me wrong, there's certainly a lot of skating in this video as well, and I'll be showing some clips throughout as I'm talking about this portion of the video, but there's actually 7 minutes of skating that's included here right at the end, and it's pretty high-level caliber skating. This is exactly what you'd expect from Julien, and is right on par with some of his past video performances. Now, one of the things that I appreciate here is, just as before, Julien incorporates that park element that he's known for and incorporates it into the streets. You can see it here with this backflip line variation over the gap. Really interesting way to go about that trick, and I love seeing that mix. I think that's a creative way to approach skating, and it blends two different genres of skating into one that we typically don't see. And that's something else that you'll get out of this video, and maybe this is expected, but you're going to get a lot of really technical tricks, spin tricks, switch-ups, as well as some stunts. High speeds are nothing new to Julien, and that's going to be nothing new to this section either. Obviously, I can't show you all of the video. I don't want to spoil it for you, and there's plenty of other stuff to see in this video, but I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the production quality as well. It's at times hit and miss. There's almost an inconsistency at times in the video where some of the B-roll shots, the establishing shots, the scene setting shots, and the skating is masterfully filmed. And that's what I was hoping for going into a high-level production such as this one. On the other hand, there are places where there's a minimalistic simplicity to it. You'll see this in the actual interview footage of Julien as he's just sitting in a chair with a plain background. And it's that combination of simplicity with some of those more elaborate flowery shots that I think makes it interesting. It's a unique mix. It's not necessarily one that I would first think of, but I think it highlights the visual appeal of those clips while showcasing the simplicity of who Julien is and focuses on his dialogue, on the stories that he's telling, on the background that he's providing. So I think it works really well, but that is something to be aware of. It's also worth noting that the voiceovers that you'll see throughout here and the parts that were originally French, perhaps, or written in Spanish that were translated over are a little bit off-putting. They're a little bit weird. Some of the translations don't seem like they click perfectly for an English audience. Having said that, I knew exactly what they were talking about. And when you're a skater, you relate on a universal level, so it doesn't really matter if every word is translated well, if the vocal inflections match perfectly. We have that interconnectedness as a culture where even without words, we know. We've been there. We share in the trials, the tribulations of skating. So I think it works beautifully. It was a really great video, and I was happy to support this one. Like I said before, the B-roll, the cinematography is amazing. And of course, if you're getting Julien Cudot to skate, you're in for a treat. Anyway, guys, let's bring this to a close with some of my final thoughts. I found this video, Foot Moon, to be an absolutely fascinating look into the person behind the skater. This documentary style of video is one that I hope catches on to other skaters out there, because for me personally, skating is such a tight-knit community that I really would be interested in getting to know the personalities behind all the different skaters. Everybody has unique stories, unique experiences, unique backgrounds, and all of those are things that I think there would be an audience for. It's also worth noting that this is some really high-level skating in this video. I can't show you all the massive hammers at the end, but the stuff that I've shown you I think is a good representation of what you would expect to see in that 7-minute street section that's included at the end of the documentary. It's also worth noting that this video is currently $10 to rent on the Foot Moon site, and then $15 to purchase, and it does come with some extras. There's some local video parts from the skaters Julien was working with down in Mexico, and I watched a few of those parts as well. And anytime you're watching skaters, especially those homegrown local groups, there's just a really fun vibe to it. Lastly, I think I would say this. This is one of those opportunities to support the industry and the skaters that are bringing their all and that are showcasing skating to a larger audience. And that's something that I personally want to support, and I know many of you do as well. So if you have the financial resources, if you're interested, go support this documentary series. Julien put his best into it, and it's a great video. I really enjoyed watching it. It's a lot of fun. And to all the other skaters out there, the pros out there, make one of these. I want to see more documentary style parts out there. I want some skating, but I want some stories and some personality. If you can fuse both of those together, well, that's a win in my book. Anyway, guys, I'm Butch Lehman of Roll Minnesota, reminding you to stay safe, stay healthy, get out there and do some rollerblading, and don't forget to support the industry in the process. We'll see y'all with the next video. Bye, everybody.